Hey, did you guys see that thing in the sky last night? Bunch of twinkling things in the sky. About 10:45 Pacific. Other times, other places. Probably couldn't see it on the East Coast. Then again, they could see it all up and down the West Coast, so yeah, you probably couldn't see it on the East Coast. Anyway, it was neat, and I saw it. I think there was something else I was supposed to do. Oh.
This is Mac OS Ken.
iPhone is blowing the lid off India. Apple's got a serious vision for the Monsterverse. And there's a new artist evangelizing for spatial audio. It is Tuesday, the 13th of June, 2023. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken. Brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. Use code MacOSKen50 at factormeals.com/MacOSKen50 for 50% off your first box. This show is also sponsored by SimpliSafe, the right way to protect your home. You've heard me talk about SimpliSafe for years, telling you some of the things I like most about it. There's how easy it is to set up. I had my keypad, sensors, and base station up and running in well under an hour. I like that. There's the fact that you can set up the system that's right for you. Your home and my home aren't the same. You might need more sensors and cameras than I do, or you might need less. SimpliSafe has packages ready to go, or you can pick and choose exactly the parts you need to make you feel secure. I definitely like that. I also like that SimpliSafe is always looking to make things safer, like with their new 2-in-1 smoke and CO detector. It can distinguish between fire and cooking smoke, so your home is protected with fewer false alarms. See how SimpliSafe can protect your home. Right now, get 20% off your new system when you sign up for interactive monitoring. Visit simplisafecom/MacOSKen. SIMPLI. That's simplisafecom/MacOSKen. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Smartphones are now a top 5 export in India, and the iPhone is to thank. That is the word from a Business Standard report highlighted by Apple Insider. Assuming they're accurate, the numbers are insane. According to the report, India's smartphone exports in fiscal year 2022 were worth about $5.4 billion US. For fiscal year 23, they're said to be worth about $10.9 billion. Now, I have to confess, things get a bit confusing here. The fiscal year in India runs from the beginning of April through the end of March, according to a few sites that I checked. That means we are barely into India's fiscal year 23. I'm assuming the $10.9 billion is a projection for the full year. If they more than doubled last year's worth in the first quarter of the financial year, that's pretty much unfathomable. Of course, doubling in a year is still stellar, especially when one considers how much more Apple plans to do. Reports for close to a year have had Apple planning to shift 25% of iPhone manufacturing to India. Currently, the Business Standard piece says the Cupertino company has only shifted 7% of that manufacturing India's way, and yet, already, Apple's iPhones accounted for approximately half of the $10.9 billion total, according to the report, meaning it is the iPhone that has driven the growth. It's also made smartphones a top 5 export for India, as mentioned a moment ago. Last year, smartphones were India's 9th largest export. Moving on up, the piece says smartphones at 5 join diesel fuel at number 4, diamonds at number 3, aviation fuel at number 2, and gasoline as the top of India's exports. It is rare that I do an Apple TV Plus story anywhere near the top of the show, but this one is big if true. Mac Rumors cites a Twitter post from Screen Time's founder and editor Sigmund Judge. Judge says the Apple TV Plus Monsterverse show Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, is shooting in 3D for spatial video. In other words, for viewing on Apple Vision Pro. Now, before you start throwing stuff, Judge says that shooting is for both 2D and 3D. That means viewers will be able to view with or without Apple's $3,500 headset. But it should be pretty amazing with. In her face-on write-up of Vision Pro last week, the Wall Street Journal's Joanna Stern talked about how drawn in she was by the avatar clip Apple was using to demo 3D. That's despite not being a big fan of the whole 3D thing. I'm also reminded of the sticking point that was said to have derailed streaming talks between Apple and the National Football League. Back in December, a piece from The Athletic said one of the things that cost Apple the rights to stream NFL Sunday Ticket was that the two could not agree on whether Apple would get the right to distribute Sunday Ticket on as-yet non-existent platforms. Can you imagine how great Zava and Inner Miami are going to look in Apple Vision? They should say it's shot in Apple Vision, by the way. It's not television, it's Apple Vision. I assume my check is in the mail. Hey, nobody's trademarked Apple Vision, have they? Besides Apple, I mean. I only ask because it looks like somebody besides Apple already owns the trademark Vision Pro. According to a piece from Apple Insider, China's Huawei registered a trademark for the name Vision Pro 4 years ago. The piece says the site Gizmo China has found an entry for Vision Pro in the China Trademark Network filed by Huawei on the 16th of May, 2019. As it stands currently, the piece says that filing grants Huawei exclusive rights to the name from the 28th of November 2021 to the 27th of November 2031. The approved filing states that the name is to be used on products that include head-mounted virtual reality devices. Huawei is not using the name exactly. Anyway, not all of it. The company has a smart headset called Vision Glass and a number of devices called Huawei Vision Smart Screen. No Vision Pro, though. It is possible that Apple will have to change the name of its device before bringing it to market. It's happened before. It's the reason we have Apple TV instead of iTV. Wikipedia jogs the memory, saying at a September 2006 Apple special event, Apple announced the first-generation Apple TV. It was originally announced as iTV to fit into their i-based product naming convention, but was renamed Apple TV before launch due to a trademark dispute with a British broadcasting network, ITV, in the UK, and they threatened to take legal action against Apple. So yeah, Apple could be forced to change the name, or it could play let's make a deal, as it did with Fujitsu and Cisco. Fujitsu was the first company to license the name iPad, according to Apple Insider, while Cisco held the trademarks for both iPhone and iOS before those products were launched. If anything slows Vision Pro's roll, it may not be the name that does it. May not be the price either. Another piece from Apple Insider says the problem may be in the supply chain, because it is always something in the supply chain. The estimated range for first-year unit sales for Apple's mixed reality headset has spanned from as low as 100,000 to as high as 3 million. Now, one rumor says the sky is not the limit. Sony is. According to the piece, Sony is thought to be producing screens for Vision Pro. Apple has apparently asked Sony to make more of the headset's eye screens, according to the report, and Sony has said no. Nothing official on any of this, of course. Word comes compliments of the Elec, a South Korean site covering the electronics industry. With no explanation as to why, the Elec has a secret source saying that Apple had asked Sony to expand its Vision Pro OLED production capacity, but the Japanese company refused. Might make things dicey for a couple of reasons. First, the Elec says Sony can only produce between 100,000 and 200,000 of the OLED screens per quarter. At best, that might mean 800,000 screens a year, which could mean as few as 400,000 headsets per year, since it takes two to make the thing go right. So maybe we are really looking at a small number of units in year one. While the Elec says there's at least one Chinese company that could make the necessary part, Apple will likely stick with Sony as the sole supplier to begin. LG Display could be brought on at some point, though it has yet to set up production for the specific display in question. Of course, there is one other possibility, though often cited in stories like these. The Elec could be incorrect. More news in a moment, but first a word from Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit and sponsor of today's show. If you're working a special diet, Factor's got you covered. From keto to calorie smart to vegan plus veggie to protein plus, Factor has delicious choices on the menu every week. Prepared by chefs and approved by dietitians, each meal has all the ingredients you need to feel satisfied all day long while meeting your goals. Now, if it's just food that's good tasting you're looking for, everything I have had from Factor fits the bill. The creamy Parmesan chicken from the keto menu and the barbecue pork sloppy joe from the calorie counter menu were both big hits around here. And they couldn't be easier. Just 10 minutes in the oven or 2 minutes in the microwave. No prep and no mess. See what Factor's got cooking for you. Head to factormeals.com/macOSKen50 and use code macOSKen50 to get 50% off your first box. That's code macOSKen50 at factormeals.com/macOSKen50 to get 50% off your first box. Taste what's made Factor America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. Get 50% off your first box with code macOSKen50 at factormeals.com/macOSKen50. If there's a little something that's been bugging you since the release of iOS 16.5, Apple may have a little update to fix it soon. Mac Rumors says telltale signs of iOS 16.5.1 have started showing up in that site's analytics logs. Tough to say what it does, though the site does have one guess. Remember how iOS 16.5 broke compatibility for Apple's Lightning to USB 3 camera adapter? Mac Rumor says a recent 16.6 beta fixed that issue. The site figures that fix will be included in iOS 16.5.1 as well. As for when the minor update will go out, your guess is as good as anyone's. This week or next week is the thinking of Mac Rumors. Mon Dieu and ooh la la and other things that sound vaguely French. Apple TV Plus has announced a new limited series. According to a press release from the Cupertino streamer, the new French drama Carême tells the story of the world's first celebrity chef, Antonin Carême. Born in the 1780s, the release says Carême rose from humble beginnings in Paris to the height of culinary stardom in Napoleon's Europe. While he dreams only of becoming the most famous chef in the world, his talent and ambitions attract the attention of renowned and powerful politicians who use him as a spy for France. Man, that is quite a story. Somebody ought to make a movie or a TV... Oh, right. Inspired by the book Cooking for Kings, The Life of Antonin Carême, the first celebrity chef, the 8-episode drama appears to be part of Apple TV Plus's ongoing cooperation with France and other members of the European Union. The release points out that Carême is the latest in French programming from Apple TV Plus that includes Liaison and the English, Japanese, French trilingual series Drops of God. And finally today, Apple's continuing its push for spatial audio awareness. Apple Insider says the Cupertino company has partnered with producer, songwriter, musician, and Chic co-founder Nile Rodgers, naming Rodgers the company's latest artist-in-residence. The mission? Focus on highlighting how musicians and fans can get more from spatial audio. And the mission is apparently underway. The piece has Rodgers saying what Apple is doing with spatial audio is the gateway to the future. Streaming and the portability that comes with it has completely changed the way we consume music, and today everything we do is accompanied by a soundtrack of our favorite songs. In giving, Rodgers also gets... The partnership will see his work remastered in Dolby Atmos spatial audio, according to the report. He'll also host 3 live spatial audio sessions and educational events over the coming weeks. Those include stops in London, Los Angeles, and New York City. The NYC stop is first. It'll be held next Monday, the 19th of June, at Apple, 5th Avenue. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Simply Safe. Get 20% off your new system when you sign up for interactive monitoring at simplysafe.com/macOSKen. This show is also sponsored by Factor. Use code macOSKen50 at factormeals.com/macOSKen50 for 50% off your first box. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macOSKen.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.